Welcome back to Fox and Friends. The mainstream media at it again, this time going along with the Medi-Scare talking points to attack Congressman Paul Ryan's budget plan, along with criticizing Republicans for not having the courage to raise taxes.
Joining us now with his reaction, Brent Brazell, founder of the Media Research Center. Thanks for being here this morning.
Good morning, folks. How you doing?
Good. I actually just got back from New York's 26th district, where the Democrat Kathy Hochul beat out the Republican Jane Corwin. We were on the ground there. There was a tremendous amount of advertising, and it was a lot about Medicare. We heard that word a lot. I went walking with Jane Corwin the night before. She was shaking hands with folks, and an older gentleman said, "Sorry, Jane," and went right back in his house. So is it working to a certain extent?
Well, the scare tactics may be working, and maybe New York showed it. Look at the reports that we're getting about these cuts. These cuts don't exist. This is the Medi-Scare campaign of 1995 all over again. In 1995, we documented over 1,000 media stories that talked about Republican proposed cuts. There were no cuts. All the Republicans wanted to do was stop increasing it as much as the Democrats, so that became a cut.
And some of the mainstream media, of course, some of the major networks playing into this and talking about the Medi-Scare tactics. Take a listen.
We begin with a seismic event in the political world. Democrats have pulled off a shocking upset, winning a special election in a staunchly Republican congressional district in upstate New York. The GOP candidate lost after backing that Republican plan to cut billions from Medicare.
The race hinged on Hochul's opposition to a Republican-led plan to make deep cuts in Medicare.
Brent, your response, they're saying it as if it's fact, yet we don't know exactly the fallout from that election until we assess it for months to come, do we?
Well, I think what's more important is to look at what they said. Both NBC and ABC reported cuts. And you heard the ABC reporter and Curry say deep cuts. Folks, here are the numbers. You tell me if they're deep cuts. The present allocation for Medicare, $563 billion. What Paul Ryan proposes by 2021 is $953 billion. Folks, that's a 70% increase in Medicare. And ABC and NBC reported that as deep cuts. Folks, that's dishonest. There's no other way of putting this. That's lying on national television. And that's setting up seniors. That's a scare tactic, and maybe it worked.
Well, are Democrats picking up on some of the talking points here, Brent? Because the Wall Street Journal on April 4th reported that the Ryan plan would effectively end Medicare. And all these Democrats jumped on that and said, hey, the Wall Street Journal said it's going to end Medicare as we know it. And then you started to hear it trickle into the mainstream media.
Sure. Well, why don't they look at Obama's healthcare budget? Obama is taking $500 billion out of Medicare. So if you're worried about Medicare cuts, why don't you look at Obamacare, which takes it away?
You know, interestingly enough, NBC also weighing in Andrea Mitchell.
I'm sorry, can I make...
Sure.
Can I make one other point here, which is very important? No one over 55 is touched by the Ryan plan. He's made that abundantly clear. Nobody's touched by it.
Andrea Mitchell on NBC had this to say about the Ryan plan. Take a listen.
Yeah. People want someone to show some guts here. Paul Ryan has shown considerable guts, but you're correct that nobody on the Republican side is showing any courage on the tax front. And unless taxes are part of the mix, every grown-up knows that it can't reach its.
She's saying something interesting here, and is it possible that this issue, Medicare or Medi-Scare, however you want to look at it, will become this election issue that gets tossed back and forth instead of the problem getting solved?
Well, the other one is tax increases. You know, this goes back to Walter Mondale in 1984 in his campaign against Ronald Reagan, where he said he had the courage to raise taxes. It always takes courage to raise taxes. Folks, it's not cutting taxes that got us into this problem. It's overspending that got us into this problem. The last thing we need to do, when the United States has got, what, the first or second highest corporate tax rate in the world, and you've got Andrea Mitchell saying, you know, we got to raise taxes. No, we don't. The last thing you do is raise taxes. How about suggesting a tax cut to do something to jumpstart this economy, which has been in a dead stall since this administration took over?
Well, Brent Bozell, thanks for having the courage to join us this morning on Fox and Friends. Always great to see you. Thanks, Brent.